Hi, I'm Carlene, and this is Nutmeg Nation. Thank you for tuning in. I have a colleague, friend, and also fellow Grenadian, Kerron. How's it going?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you adjusting to the spring forward, as they call it?
Spring forward? I don't know, because that's sort of like an up and down question here in Toronto because of the spring forward, weather goes backwards, then jumps back forward, then backwards. So it's like.
I know we've had quite a winter. I don't know what this is because the transition between hot and cold, like it's just a little crazy, but I don't know. I think we're going to do a little interesting thing that I like to call sort of like a cultural moment for Grenada. I think that, this year, 2024, it's going to be more exciting. I think a lot of people like to dress up for Spicemas, choose their costume, and, just go down to Grenada, and visit. It's a very popular time to visit Grenada during carnival seasons.
Okay, so what do you know about Spice Fast? What can you tell me about it?
Well, you know what? What I know is that Spicemas started about 100 years ago, and it's basically a celebration of slavery, like stemming back from history. Slaves were living a hard life. And as a way to celebrate cultural significance, they decided to create this event and it just hit the ground running pretty much. So it's come a long way.
Okay. So it started about 100 years ago. Is it? I guess it would be similar to other carnivals in the Caribbean, like Trinidad and St. Vincent and whatnot, right? I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, well, you know what? I think Trinidad, they are notorious for carnival. Like it's a big deal. Like they go all out. I don't know. Have you been to Carnival in Trinidad?
Yeah, I've been to both. Yeah.
And so what is your opinion? What do you think in terms of events, parties?
Well, yeah, Trinidad is on another level when it comes to that stuff because that's where the whole calypso, soca, and our style of mass or carnival started, right?
Yeah.
Theirs it is definitely grander. It's bigger. It's also a bigger country, so you're gonna get more stuff happening, and it's also older than Spicemas, right? So
yeah.
I think between the two, you get a beautiful variation of carnival because, as you know, carnival basically reflects the history, the origins of it from our side is based from slavery. Slaves used to use the beating of the drums and whatnot to communicate with each other in times of slavery. And that developed into the mass. And whereas something like Juve and stuff developed from slaves making fun of the colonial masters. So they make their own costumes and parade in the streets. So all of that is sort of stems from that era. And Grenada has taken it to other heights. For example, with Jab Jab. Everybody loves Jab Jab, right?
Yeah.
Jab Jab is a reflection of slavery itself because they're sort of portraying what slaves went through being bound in chains and whatnot. I'm not quite fully sure if that's a proper explanation of it, but I know Grenada does it very well. It's a wonderful variation between the two. If you ever have a chance, I know you've been for Grenada, but you should definitely go for Trinidad and try both. Maybe try both in a year. Who knows if you have the opportunity to.
Yeah, it's also the funds, right? But yeah, you're right. Jab Jab is a celebration scene at Spicemas where participants dance and parade through the city to a sound called Jab Jab rhythm. The Jab Jab is iconically represented by masqueraders covered in black oil, horns, and chains. And you know what? I find the Jab Jab kind of scary. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, whenever you see them, they're covered in black oil and some of them are carrying, I don't know if it's like meat or whatever they have in their mouth. Like, it's not very...
Meat? When I was growing up and when I was living in Grenada, they used to have snakes around them.
Yeah.
So that's what the Jab Jab still is then. Yeah, you have the right to be scared. But
no, but obviously they're doing what they're supposed to do because you're talking about the history of Jab Jab, right? Yes. You know what I mean? So as I'm quoting from, the lovely internet here, it's talking about, like, in fact, like you said, the emancipation of African slaves were not allowed to participate in Carnival. But this never stopped their celebrations. They recovered themselves in the whole Jab Jab outfit. And so that was probably like in recognition of we're no longer in slavery. We can celebrate our culture now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like we're talking about like, Carnival. So what events do you like to go to when you go to Carnival?
When I go to Carnival, I have not experienced Grenada's Juve recently.
Yeah.
But as of recently, when I've been down to Trinidad's Juve, I love doing that. So I'm definitely gonna try and go to Juve in Grenada for Spicemas when I've got the opportunity to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I went years ago. It's, it's been a while, but there's no rule with the music because the music starts at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm already hearing the truck going. I'm like, wow.
Oh yeah.
Really?
That's Juve. Yeah, that's Juve. Because people make their own costume, right? I guess, can you touch on stuff about Juve? Do you know much about Juve?
I don't know a lot about Juve, but from what it says here, it's like a disguise, right? Like you're covered in paint and, it's more or less a colorful celebration really early in the morning. But what do you know about Juve?
Yeah, it's basically, that's the gist of it. It goes back to the whole back in the day stuff where they make their own costumes again to reflect political times and whatnot. So that's what people used to do. I don't know how it is. Well, at least now in Grenada itself, but I know, because you would make your own costume to send your own message to like politicians or whatever it may, whether it be political or whatever is going on in society.
Yeah. You know what? The last time I went to Juve morning, other than the people that were in their, homemade costume and color and whatever they could find around the house, there is a political message. I remember seeing a lot of signs, a lot of like statements that were there. So it definitely catches your attention. I'm not going to say some of the stuff that I saw, but I was like, wow, it's pretty out there with how far they will go politically to make a point of view. You know what I mean? So you are right about that. Yeah, definitely. What about Monday Night Mass? Does Trinidad have Monday Night Mass?
Yeah. Trinidad's the Monday night, everything. I think both islands are pretty similar in what they have and what they sort of represent for Carnival.
Yeah.
I've not done the Grenada Monday night or the Monday Mass in Grenada.
Yeah. You know what? It's more casual, not as expensive as getting a costume. What I like is it's like a really nice light show. So there's lots of lights, different bands parading around, and it's more casual. Like a lot of the bands are like in shorts and t-shirt from when I went. Mind you, it might have changed. Like you said, over the years, they always like spice it up a little bit, right?
Spice it up.
You know what? The one thing I do have to say that culturally is different is how people respect the people in costume. When you go to the parade, again, what is it? The Monday Mass. Yeah, I remember going and being quite shocked because no one is jumping on the truck. No one's getting in the way of people in costume or anything like that. People respect the performers and everyone that's paid their money and they stand to the side. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh,
like
you mean,
here. Yeah.
You mean the difference between Toronto? Yeah. Because, part of that is because there's no historical context to it. Like we in the Caribbean have our celebrations and we know the history. We, for the most part, know the history behind it. And, and you're taught what's the purpose of this? What's the purpose of that? Over here, it's just a party.
Yeah.
So no one knows, right? And there are other people who sort of just jump in and say, hey, I want to be a part of this, but they have no history. They have no context. So nothing is taught to them. So they don't value what we have, right?
Yeah. So you're saying it's a matter of respect where it's more of a party than just a historical event.
Yeah, because there's a purpose to the party. There's a purpose to Carnival, right? Like traditionally, as far as I remember, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Grenada's Carnival was just similar to Trinidad where it was before Lent, right?
Yes, it was. Yes.
Right. So they've got that. It's all part of like you celebrate. It's like celebrating the harvest. Basically, you're celebrating what's produced, and then Lent comes around. Sort of just everything just goes away, and it's time to give yourself to God. Basically, it's but there is a context to it, right? There's a reason why we do this and we do that. Whereas here, or in North America, or I can't speak for any other city, so I should just say Toronto.
Yeah.
But in Toronto, it's just let's just have a party, and we just get together and do whatever you want, basically, right? Or try anything you can. It's not. There's no education on what the meaning of this is or what the meaning of that is, right?
I don't know. I guess with time, but yeah, it's always seen as a tourist event here in Toronto. I mean, it's still the same in Caribbean culture, but I think the meaning is a little bit different because of its significance. Because I guess if we're going to get into the history, like Carnival in Grenada started just as other carnivals in the Caribbean. Much of the island population in Grenada arrived there against their own will, brought over from Africa as slaves. And a true testament to the very strength of these people, they were able to maintain some of the cultures that they knew from their native islands, despite the fact that they were forced to stifle their own traditions by their owners. So, like you said, because of the history and the fact that, Grenada has only been independent now for 50 years, maybe it's more prolific as a celebration than here in Canada, where we're more of a multicultural society and it's a party. Like, let's get drunk, right?
Yeah, well, Canada also didn't really go through an independence from slavery and all of that as well, right? So
yeah,
there is no connection to that, right? Because that's more of a, again, like you said, an African sort of culture thing where the slaves and Carnival combined. Because like Carnival itself is not something that's originated from the Caribbean, right? But the style of it with soca, calypso, steel band, and all of that stuff, that style originates from the Caribbean. So that's the context with it because we know why we celebrate.
Oh, definitely. It's actually this year, February 7th, 1974 was when Grenada gained its independence. And this year, Grenada is celebrating 50 years. And so it's a big deal for Grenada, obviously. It's come a long way as a country in terms of its history and where we stand now as an island. And because you're kind of like, from both world, like your background is Grenadian and Trinidadian, you kind of have the best of both worlds. Cause they're neighbors when you think about it, like, you know what I mean? But not necessarily really close in that way. Do you feel like Grenadians and Trinidadians kind of get along or they're like,
Yeah, I feel like they're the same, to be honest. If you meet most people in Trinidad, most of them have some sort of Grenadian connection.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're basically the same, in my opinion. But obviously, you got
I have my opinion.
But each country has their individuality, basically.
Yeah,
trying to say, right? But I think they're pretty much the same. If you speak to most people in Trinidad, they'll have some sort of connection, either like their parents were from Grenada or their relatives or something. Someone there, they've got some sort of connection to Grenada.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a great island, very friendly connection, very friendly people altogether. Whenever I go back, I always find that there's nothing really to complain about because the people are friendly, the food is good, and you're there to have a good time. And I think if you want to go to Carnival, this is a great year to go. But I feel like there's a lot of preparation involved with Carnival. Don't you think? Like, you don't just do Carnival last minute. Like, wouldn't you have already chosen your costume already by now? Like, we're in March, right? If you were planning to go.
Absolutely. Yeah. You'd have to make your pre-orders or get your stuff together. Yeah. You'd have to. Yeah. It's not a last minute thing. You can do that with Juve, but not with playing actual masquerading, right?
Yeah. And we were talking about the prices. Like, I don't know, like looking at the prices of the costumes and, inflation. I don't even know if this is up to date, but some of the costumes are like ranging from, what did we see? 400 to 1,000.
1,000. Yeah. 400 to 1,000, which is crazy.
Yeah. That's a lot of money
which is crazy. Yeah. I mean, again, that's partly why I just play Juve, but
yeah.
In Juve in Trinidad, you can do free, or I'm pretty sure it's the same for Grenada. You can do it free, or you can pay maybe $100. I want to say $100, and then that gives you the ability to just get a T-shirt. You're a part of a band. You get paint. You get some snacks and beverages or whatever the case is, or breakfast, I should say, and then you're good to go. So. Right. I'd rather do that. And that's a lot more fun, my opinion. But hey, that's just me.
Yeah. I've actually never participated in Juve Morning. I was a spectator when I went a few years back. It's been a minute, right? And so it always seems to be one of the events that a lot of people miss work for. I don't know. My aunt tells me that people call in sick,
Hey, that's Carnival. That's Carnival in any Caribbean country, man. If you're working, then, in Trinidad, Carnival is not a holiday officially.
Yeah.
Because unofficially, everybody's off.
Right.
So it might as well be a holiday, but it's not. So I mean, if that's the case for Trinidad, I'm sure I know it's the case for Grenada as well. Nobody's going into work on Carnival.
Mhm.
So you'll be hard pressed to find anyone working who's not like a civil servant, like a police officer or something like that, right? So
Yeah. No, I hear that. And you know what? The one thing that I have to remind people is that Grenada's Carnival is the second Monday in August. We do it a little bit later. I guess it's kind of like tied around close to Carnival in Toronto because it's usually falls in August, July, end of July and beginning of August. But the second Monday, if you're planning or if you already got your ticket for Carnival this year, you're going to have a great time, obviously. But like we're talking about two countries here. So in Trinidad, it's in February. Why do they have it in February? Do you even know?
yeah, that's just like Grenada's was in February. That's right before Lent. It ends with Ash Wednesday, right? So
right.
yeah, that's traditionally how it was because Carnival was like to celebrate the harvest, celebrate the year, the new year, and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
It's more of like a religious thing when you think about it, right?
It sort of went around their religious calendar a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm Carlene, and this is Nutmeg Nation. We are talking about Carnival.
Yeah.
Anyways, I got
Spicemas.
Spicemas, yes.
Thank you for listening to Nutmeg Nation with Carlene Humphrey.